Alright, hey guys. This video is going to be about a loot bag drop with a user interface of the bag. All that means is that, for example, when you kill an NPC, he can drop a bag, which is going to be our loot bag, and the player can open up that bag and select what he wants from the bag to go into the player's own inventory. Let me show you exactly what I mean here. You can see I have a basic scene set up with this capsule being our player, and this cylinder here is going to represent our bag. These cubes are just here just to show position. And so what happens when we click on the bag contains items. We can get the items from the bag, walk away from the bag, check our bag, and they are now inside of our inventory. Go back to that bag and they are no longer there because they are inside of our player's bag. Now that might have sounded a lot more complex than it should be, because this was actually quite simple, and I did do this all without using a bag component from Plygame itself. As you can see here, add component Plygame item systems item bag. I didn't use that just because I thought it'd be easier if I can do it myself. So you will see exactly how I did that. First, what I did was I added that user interface to my scene here. What mine was, it was just a panel with 4 buttons inside of it, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And underneath each of those buttons are a raw image, which is going to store the image of the item. So you can go ahead and set yours up something like this. You can do as however many slots you want inside of your bag that your NPC drops. And you're just going to want to add a button for each, and you're going to want to add a raw image underneath each button. And then I just named it to slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, and slot 4. Let's go ahead and disable this again. And next, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to add your bag game object, which, if you remember, mine is just this simple cylinder here. I added 2 scripts to it, a plyblock script and an interact object script. And upon opening the plyblock script, I added 2 events, on interact and on interact stopped. So what I did was I enabled that, because we're going to disable it because you do not want your bag interface visible when you start the game. That wouldn't make any sense. So we have it disabled by default, and when they click on the bag, the interface will be visible to the player. And then we're going to want to trigger an event called params inside of the canvas. And I know we haven't made this event yet, but we will in the future. And when you do trigger this event, the parameters are going to be the items that are going to be inside of the bag. Here you can see that I have it hard-coded to sphere and big sphere. Now I did that just for simplicity of this video, but I did make this thing right here. This is just basically a template for you to look at and see what you want to do yourself, because you probably don't want your items inside the bag to be hard-coded to be the same thing every single time. What this does here is makes it random, so you can just pause the video here, get a good look at what I made. Obviously it's not filled out completely. You're gonna have to do some stuff on your own. This is a good starting point though, and it will make the items random. But I'm not going to go much further into this. If you don't understand it, then just ask me on the forum site. But that's all for this, because what I'm going to do is going to show you how to do the rest, so that when you figure it out, you can do it as well. So on interact stopped, all we do is disable that game object because we do not want it visible anymore. So far, what we have, we can go over here, we can click on our bag, and this pops up. We do not have the textures at this point, but I have it. I've already done all of this, so they are popping up. And when we walk away, it will disappear. Hopefully you have that so far. If not, go ahead and restart because you're doing it wrong. Next, you remember that here, you remember this event that we triggered here inside of the canvas? What we're going to want to do is make that event. So let's go to the canvas and add a plyblock script to it, and add 3 local variables, or actually add as many local variables as you have slots, and then one more to check if the bag's been opened. You'll see what I mean here, but I'm only going to show you 2 slots because there's no point in me showing you how to do all 4 slots when it's just the same thing over and over. So we have slot 1 opened, slot 2 opened, and opened. Open up your ply blocks, add again as many local variables as you have. So because this is why. You remember how we hard-coded the items to temporary variables? We're just going to set them as local variables so that we can use them in these events following it. You can only use a temporary variable is only called on the event once that it is sent to. That's why we set it as local variables so that we can use it in other events. Anyways, you'll have as many parameters as you have items inside of your bag. The important part here though is we're going to check if the bag has been opened or not. Because each time they open the bag, we don't want to reset the texture on the raw image of the button. So here if the bag hasn't been opened yet, so the first time he opens it, it does set the texture to image 1 from the item that we sent. So you can see here on my sphere, image 1 is this trigger button here. I didn't have any images, so I just used the ones that came with Plygame. So when we hit play, that's why it sets the texture to that. So this is what we have so far. It sets the textures to that. And continuing, you're going to want to set opened to true because there, the bag has been opened. Moving on to the next event, slot 1. You're going to want to check if slot 1 has been opened or not, and by default it will not be opened. And then you want to add a copy of the item of the image that we sent. Not really of the image, but the same item. So we sent an item to this plyblock script, and we set that item as a local variable, which is here, parameter 1. And since parameter 1 is the item that we're using, we set the image of the slot to the image of the item, and then when you click on the slot, you add a copy of the item to the bag of the player. And then it sets the texture to nothing because we don't want to mislead the player to think that there is another copy of that item there. And then we set slot 1 opened to true because the player has now clicked on the slot and it is now in his bag. And you'll see here, just have the same thing for slot 2 because like I said, essentially it's just going to be the same thing. You can just copy and paste the event and switch the numbers. You'll say slot 3, slot 4, slot 5, and so on and so forth. So in that case, we pretty much have it done, except that you have to trigger those slot 1 and slot 2 events when you click the button. So on your buttons, you're going to want to hit this plus button here, drag your canvas into this slot, and go to plyblocks, trigger event, and you can type in your event there. In my case, it was slot 1. Since I already have this, I can delete this. And we are pretty much done here. So at this point, we can go up to our bag, click our bag, get the items from the bag, look inside of our bag. It is now there. We can continuously click on where the item was, and it will not add more copies into our bag. That's just the way we set it up. Hopefully that makes sense to you, and hopefully you can add on to that the way that you see fit. So hopefully that helped. Thanks for watching.